Hi everyone, you're with Lucy from Artshed Angel, and I wanted to show you today how I created this cute little watercolor fairy wren. So I'm going to do the video now and I hope you enjoy. Thanks for joining me. Now I have done a sketch of the little bird. In the links below you will find a link to where you can get the picture. So if you like my work, please make sure you subscribe to my channel. Watercolors is one of my favorite things, and all the information on what I've used will be in the description below, so make sure you check that out and the links as well. And there's also a very special discount from Derivan Inks in Australia, Derivan Paints in Australia. So the first thing I have done is I've used Australian leaf green with a little bit of sap green to do that little bit of a dry brush in the background. And now I'm using some phthalo blue and some cobalt just in these little areas. Now the first things I'm doing here are little washes, not too much water on your brush, and doing the washes to get the undercolors. It's really important to get the base colors down, and when you look at your image, always choose the lightest color for that base color. So you can see here I'm just using a grey. Now the grey that I've used is a mixture of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. I don't like to use just black. And even under where I'm going to do the black, I'm doing that mixture, but obviously in this section, I want it to be slightly darker. So on the belly, I've used a really washy mixture of the two, and here I have made quite a lot stronger mixture. And that's just so that we get the base color in and I can have a look at where I need to put detail and where I need to add darker colors. So whenever I do watercolors, there's a lot of layering involved. I find that when I teach it as well, that people need to learn, the first thing they need to learn is you don't always get it in the first go. So you can see here, I'm just using a bit of burnt sienna here with a bit of raw umber from the Derivan Paints, and I'm just painting in a wash because his wings have that brown tinge to it, and I want to make sure I actually show that up as I'm doing this. Now I do force dry it. That's a hair dryer that I'm using, but you can allow it to dry. And this is now when I'm going to be taking a little bit more of the brown to just put in the stem or the branch that the little bird is sitting on. And I want that to be quite light when it dries, and I'm not going to put too much detail on that branch, but I'm just going to start with a light wash and just darken it along the bottom, because you can see in the actual picture that's there, it's darker towards the bottom. And I'm just getting that out of the way so when I start putting some detail on the bird that I'll have the right thing happening. So now what I'm using is a really quite dark mix of that ultramarine blue as well as the burnt sienna, but I've also added a little bit of black into that. And you can see here, I'm just now looking at the detail on the bird. So the photo that I have there doesn't really have his eye very outstanding, but I can see it a little bit better when I look at my computer view of it. So I have used that to actually get the detail. And here I'm just putting in the black, but leaving some little highlights of the grey, and also making sure I get that feathered kind of look when I go into the other colours. And around the blue there's this beautiful little kind of they're kind of feather scallops. So what I'm looking at is each shape individually. So for me, when I paint, it's looking at the shapes, making sure that I'm getting the shapes right. And as I do this, you can see I'm just darkening it to make the shapes right. So each time the watercolors dry, they stay a little bit transparent. So sometimes I've got to do a couple of layers here. So where I'm really looking at where the dark side of the bird is and where the light is at this present moment. So I'm now going to also add a little bit more of the blue, because you can see the bird has quite a luminous kind of blue to it. And I'm just using a little bit of ultramarine and cobalt here mixed together. And even within the black area, I do add a bit of blue and a little bit of purple here and there, just to liven the black up. I'm not very fond of black as a colour that you use. I tend to like to mix in some other colours. So now I'm going to work on some of the brown in the wings, because there's some real dark areas there. So I'm doing quite thick or really sort of creamy, hardly watered down brown here, just to add that dark area to the side of his wing and to put some of those wing shapes in. Now, it's important to note that you don't actually have to put every single part of a picture in. So sometimes just the gesture of it. So I've left some light areas in those wings, I've left some lines in the wings, and that kind of is enough. You don't really need to make sure that you put every single feather that you see within it, but I'm just giving the gesture of it. And with his legs here, I am just doing the black, and I'm going to use a bit of the brown on the legs too. But I'm not concentrating on doing them very specifically perfect. And when it comes to the tail here, I'm starting with just some of the black and the mixture with the burnt sienna and the ultramarine blue, and I'm trying to get the shadow areas in here. And later on I actually add blue to it, because you can see when you look at the bird, sorry about the lights that you can see across that, but when you look at the bird you can see that there's a bit of a blue tinge, and I'm really concentrating there on getting that shape, that black shape that I can see. And the shadows between the feathers I'm worrying about. And just here and there you'll see as I paint, I touch things up as I go and try to make them a little bit darker if I think they're drying. But with watercolors you're always better going too light to start off with and continue adding, because if you go too dark first, it's very, very hard to go backwards. So here I'm just giving that feather edge. So those little black feathers that are over the wing, I'm using the tip of my brush just to give it that kind of feathered out effect. And it does actually help. And here I'm using a bit more blue because I've decided that his little face and his head needs to be a little bit more blue. It's dried a bit dull, so just adding that. And now I'm just going to put some texture into these feathers. And again, this is that mix of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. So I'm just adding some of that in there and making sure that there's a little bit of shadow on the branch where he's standing. You can't kind of see it on the photo, but I'm just adding a little bit there. A few bits of detail here and there. And he's quite coming together quite nicely. He doesn't need a lot more work. So when I'm painting with watercolors, I am always looking at shapes, looking at the shapes, looking at the tone, looking at the lightest color that I see first, and that always becomes my wash. I do enjoy doing a little bit of color around the bird, but sometimes I like just the white behind as well. So if you like my video, please make sure you subscribe to my channel, and also let me know what you think, and make sure that you have a look in the description for all the products that I have used. If you want to know anything, please ask questions, and I hope that I see you very soon again at Art Shed Angel. You're with Lucy. Thank you. Bye-bye.